Look at my Star Trek toys! What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Look at My Star Trek Toys. Or, you know what? It might be just welcome, because we expect some new eyeballs on our little show today, because we have very exciting news. We had another episode planned for you this week, but you know what? Boom! We got to talk about this because our good friends, I say aspirationally, our good friends at Nacelle Toys have announced the first wave of their new Star Trek action figures at, was it Comic-Con? Toy-Con?
Comic-Con happening in New York City right now.
Comic-Con here in New York City, just a few miles away from where I'm sitting at this very moment. So if you haven't ever seen the show before, I'm Keith. That's Mike. We have two different Star Trek related shows here on the YouTube. One, we look at Star Trek toys. We have huge, endless reviews of old Star Trek toys and unboxings from the Playmates line and expanding on to other lines. And we also have a detailed, and I do mean detailed, episode by episode review of Star Trek Deep Space Nine. Keith and Mike watch Deep Space Nine. For all the rest of you, welcome back. We are glad to have you here. And as opposed to our last episode on this topic, where we basically had almost nothing to talk about, very, very little news, we have tons of news and specific news for you here on the Nacelle line. Now, of course, you know, I always credit the first person who sends me the information about it, and of course, it's our friend Brandon Giles. I called him Brian Giles last time. 100% wrong. I apologize. It's Brandon Giles, who was right there with the link on our Instagram. You can reach us on Instagram at Star Trek Toys, if that's how you want to get me some info. But Mike, we have some very exciting stuff to talk about.
Yeah, you sent me the link,
show you.
But I was out and about, so I did not get to see this stuff yet. So I'm psyched to see what we got going. Let me recap our speculation, or our excitement level. Our excitement level was that they were going to be hitting some deep cuts, and not just give you the figures everybody has already, filling in some gaps perhaps. So that was exciting. And the dude was a fan that was on the podcast who was running the company, or running the line at least. So let's see how it all panned out.
Yes. So first off, all of these images have been borrowed from toysnewssi.com. You can go there and see all of this. And a lot of this is filtering around in the toys community today. And you can also go on YouTube and watch the entire presentation from Nacelle Toys at the Comic-Con. So really, really fun. So all of this is going to be secondhand. So please enjoy the secondhand information that you can quickly link and go see firsthand. So here is what we have learned from watching the press conference and the assets. So as we mentioned before, their focus is to be fan-forward approach. So they are doing this as fans. They are fans. They're legitimate toy fans, legitimate Star Trek fans. They have solicited all sorts of advice from the Star Trek fans that will hopefully go into the next couple of lines, which we're going to talk about. But also, this line has been somewhat informed by all of the Star Trek toy fans out there. And this is pulling directly from their wish lists, which is pretty cool. We have a pretty extensive wish list ourselves, which you can see in our show notes below. Now, of course, that was based on the Playmates figures that we wished we could fill in the Playmates line. These figures, as we talked about before, but just to recap, are not going to be Playmates scale. And I know some people have strong feelings about that. Would I personally prefer continuing the Playmate scale? Yeah, I sure would, but I understand their reasoning for not. So here is what we know. First off, wave 1 is going to have 8 characters in the line. And my understanding of it was, previous to the instant fan reaction, this was actually only going to be a 6 wave line. And because of the reaction they got, they have expanded it to 8, and I'm very excited about which ones they chose to expand with. If this goes well, right, and this is always the if, this is what happened with the Playmates 2022 line, the if weighs heavily in all of this, but if it goes well, they hope to have 10 character waves moving forward. And he will they will consider it. Brian Volkweis is the head of the guy here, the head guy of Nacelle. He says that he will consider this line successful when they reach 100 different characters and figures. So this is very encouraging. Now, if it sells, if they make money on it, I don't know how many they have to sell in order to make money to keep going wave after wave after wave. But at least the intent, right from the very beginning, is to give us at least 100 different figures. And that's very exciting because it is, I mean, I don't think I'm speaking for most people's frustrations when you come out there, oh, here's 8 figures and we're never going to see another one. And so, like, why even bother to get them? So at least the intent there is to do that. Now, before we reveal, and we do have images and the lineup of the first wave, let me give you just a quick other frequently asked questions about these figures, starting with, when will pre-sale start? Don't know yet. The scale, like I said, is going to be 6 to 7 inches, probably closer to 7. Accessories. There will be accessories, and interesting accessories specific to the character. And I have a couple examples of the accessories that are going to be coming with some of these figures, but also specifically pointed out there may be some other props and accessories that would make sense in the world, but not necessarily to that character. And there's a specific one I will give when we get closer, because I don't want to reveal the character before we get there. Vehicles and ships, not yet. It's a no now. Who knows what might happen in the future? I wonder if Playmates still has that license. Unclear. Articulation. Everybody's wondering, what are the articulation? He says a minimum of 25 points of articulation, which is pretty cool. And lastly, where can you buy? Where can you buy these? And because we were speculating last episode, how are we going to sell it? Is this going to be just online? Is it going to be, just direct to consumer? Is it going to be small places? Well, here's what they say. There will be a pre-sale. They are going to sell direct to consumer on their website. There will be other online distributors, toys and comic book stores, naturally, but also, interestingly, still big box retail.
Cool.
They expect to sell in. So
give it a whirl, right?
They have a whirl. They said Walmart, FHE, Hot Topic, Spencer's, Target, Diamond, and Big Bad Toy Store. So at least that seems like where they're going to have distribution there. So I wonder if how reliant they will be on the Walmart, Target, because we know that even Playmates really had to battle for shelf space and had a hard time there. So lots of big questions. And at the end of this video, Mike, remind me, I can tell you how much they're going to cost.
Nice.
Or at least I think. And I'll explain what that is. So, without further ado, let's look at these figures, shall we? First up, and I can't believe I only got one right in all of my speculation from last time, but I got this one right. This is a Captain Jellicoe figure from the Next Generation episodes Chain of Command Part 1 and Part 2. He was the only person that made sense to me in a standard Star Trek or Next Gen era duty uniform. And here it is, Captain Jellicoe. Definitely an interesting character, a great character. I've never seen a Jellicoe figure produced commercially before. And I think we're going to find a theme here in these 8 figures. When they say, we're not just going to give you another Picard, they really mean it.
Yeah, well, I can tell you, it's funny. You almost kind of want them a little bit already, because I can tell you right now at this scale, and this is showing just kind of like the 2222 Playmates, we've advanced in our ability to 3D sculpt. The paint looks matte and flat, which you and I love.
Yep.
This looks badass.
You can see the articulations. The facial sculpt is great. The paint is great. Now, let's just be totally upfront. These are prototypes.
It's a proto, yeah.
So these are just prototypes. We don't know how it's going to evolve as we get closer to production. But he did say that Captain Jellicoe. Now, Mike, you have not seen Chain of Command.
I don't know. I must have seen it because this is very familiar to me. So
okay,
maybe we looked at a custom, perhaps.
It's quite possible we have looked at a custom or two. And so there's a couple more we can show of Jellicoe while I go. There's two more. So this was the presentation at Comic-Con, and we can see they have some sort of fun little tidbits about Jellicoe there here. He did say, for those super fans like me, Jellicoe will indeed come with a fish tank and a finger paintings from a child, which of course are things that bothered him on the show, which I think is really funny. So they're trolling the figure just a hair with the choking hazards coming in. And so here you can see the 3D render that they produced the prototype from, I would assume. But it's great. I think it's fun. I think a lot of people have expressed interest in a Captain Jellicoe. I mean, awesome. Why not? So next up is now, Mike, do you remember this guy? Because this is from the Wrath of Khan, and we just watched that with our patrons. You can join them at patreon.com/KNM if you're wondering, and watch us watch Wrath of Khan. This is the deepest of deep cuts.
The suit is definitely familiar.
This is Midshipman Peter Preston from Wrath of Khan, who got himself dead. And we watched this guy die on camera in Wrath of Khan. And so this was not a character from the original series. He just came in for Wrath of Khan, and which is the deepest of deep cuts on figures. And I am impressed with their willingness to go this deep of the deep cuts in Wave 1. It's the literal opposite of what Playmates did.
Yeah, but that's funny.
Playmates did the shallowest possible cuts. Nacelle is jumping straight to the absolute, not the B sides, the C and D sides, which is fascinating. But what's really cool about this figure, obviously it's a big emotional beat for the Wrath of Khan, the legendary Wrath of Khan, but it is, he will indeed come with a battle-damaged head and chest piece. So, because it doesn't go well for poor Peter in Wrath of Khan. Spoiler alert from 1982. But you will be able to display him a bloody mess or not. And they had the actor who plays him at the event today, which was pretty fun.
That's so
cool. I mean, such a deep cut, but fun, right? There is an element of whimsy to this selection, which I think is
it's hyper targeting the niche market, right?
I mean, the nichest of niche.
Well, it's saying "I see you, Keith," and you know what I mean. And instead of we gotta cater to like the widest audience and then narrow down. This is going the opposite way, which is kind of cool.
This is definitely going the opposite way. But honestly, it's a sort of a side story.
He's basically saying you bloodthirsty hooligans. This is what you wanted.
No, and look, I'll say this way. I bought my ex-wife her very first action figure this week, and I she's a big fan of the Halloween movie, and I got her Laurie Strode from the first Halloween movie, and that was great. It went over really well. But then I got her Laurie Strode's friend. I don't even remember her name, but she's always like totally right. And that made her light up like a Christmas tree because it was the weirdest, most obscure character that she always really keyed on and loved. And that was by far a bigger hit. The deepest cut, the figure I didn't even believe they could possibly make. So I think this is that idea.
The first cut is the deepest. That's what they say.
It is indeed. So next up, now, Mike, you haven't seen this one because we have not done our Star Trek 3 watch along yet. But this is Valkyris from Star Trek 3. A female Klingon, and
I can tell you this. What I can tell from the articulation on this figure, her eyes are up there.
Yeah, right. Very good, Mike. Very good. And so is her hair. So her eyes are up there. Her hair, everything is pointing away, and yet there we are. So this is really interesting. It's a character that's not one of the major characters of the movie, but again, deep cuts, but visually very interesting. It's a great costume. It's a really interesting costume. As a Klingon from Star Trek 3.
And and we're getting kind of a taste of what the art direction is going to be. So this is kind of cool.
Yeah, I mean, finding a variety of things, and I do believe that each line is only going to feature one figure from each thing, right? Like Next Gen, or one figure from each movie. So it's we're not going to get a Worf and Data from Next Gen in the same line, is my understanding. So there is the digital rendering of Valkyris. So cool.
Yeah,
I like it. Next up, this one I am super excited about. It is Captain Jarrett from yesterday's Enterprise, the captain of the Enterprise C. And this is here we go. Personal choice. This is my favorite episode of Next Gen. My absolute favorite of Next Gen, possibly my favorite episode of Star Trek ever, although I think Deep Space Nine has some. But definitely of Next Gen, this is my favorite episode. So really, really excited to get a Captain Jarrett. Also, an interesting thing about and so this, we can see the actual figure. So only 3 of them did they have the prototypes there to be photographed at the at Comic-Con, and this is one of them. So what was I going to say? Something really interesting. So the fun part about this, again, mild spoiler alert, but she arrives kind of damaged this way. This is also going to have an alternate chest piece with a certain iconic piece of storytelling damage, per se, that is going to come part of it. And I don't think they've just figured out exactly how they're going to do it, whether they're going to use magnets or not. But again, really a lot of thought going into how these characters are displayed and all the specifics, storytelling stuff. So love getting a Captain Garrett. Now this one made the audience audibly gasp in the room because, folks, we are getting a Tuvix. Wow. So crazy. One of the iconic one episode characters on Star Trek Voyager. Probably one of the most iconic decisions ever made by a captain in Star Trek. Now, Mike and I haven't gotten to Voyager in our watch-along reviews, so I'm not going to remind Mike much about this character.
I remember Neelix, because we looked at the figure. I remember Tuvok, because I have a Tuvok. And but I can only guess what happened here.
Yeah, something happened. Something went down, which gave us Tuvix. Which Tuvix actually made our list of figures that we want, and it's it's pretty wild. So here we are. We're getting a Tuvix, folks. Fun. Also fun. Coming up next, this is Mirror Evil Captain Archer from Enterprise. Great choice. Really fun. This was a really fun episode in the Mirror universe, because we got to be on the old-timey Enterprise, get ourselves in some old-timey uniforms back on Enterprise. And who doesn't love Scott Bakula? I know somebody who loves Scott Bakula a great deal here on this show.
Baby got Bakula, baby. Give me, once I saw this, I'm in. Day one. Nacelle, please prototype me.
Yes.
We'll do a glowing review for you on the YouTube.
That's right. We will have your Bakula if you send it to us. Don't you worry.
If you send it, he will come.
He will come. Now, this one doesn't even have a digital rendering. There's no prototype. So I believe these last 3 are figures that they have decided to ramp into production based on the interest of the first 5. Mirror Archer, hell yeah. But this is the big one for me. Folks, we are finally going to get a Weyoun.
You know I love Weyoun.
Oh my God, I am so excited about getting a Weyoun.
Jeffrey Combs and Keith Varney, the 2 most excited people this side of the Alpha Quadrant.
I mean, legitimately, Weyoun is one of my all-time favorite characters.
Also, the fact that he's figured 007, there's kind of a nice
it's
ring
crazy.
To it.
Now, Now, Mike, just to talk about where we are in our Deep Space Nine review, which you should definitely check out if you haven't.
Yeah, this week that this is airing, you will see, or this coming week, you will see season
this
1,
coming week.
episode 1 of season 6.
Yeah, that's right. So we have just crossed the season 5, season 6 bridge, and everyone knows what that means. But that also means we are just getting into the meaty Weyoun Center, and I am so excited for Mike to continue to get to know this character and Jeffrey Combs' performance of it. And if it's not number 1, it's definitely in the top 10 of my figures that it's my wish list. So getting that one is a really big deal. Now we're seeing one more. Oh, you know what? I didn't add a picture for it because there's not much more of a picture, but tell me what that figure 8 is, Mike.
Oh yeah, that's one of our classics. That's why is it a deep cut though?
Well, it's a deep cut. That is, of course, Captain Sulu from Star Trek 6 as the captain of the Excelsior. And so it's just a picture from the movie because they don't have a figure prototype for it. But Captain Sulu from Star Trek 6 as the captain of the Excelsior also showed up on an episode of Voyager, which is really great. I'm excited to get this. Is a really cool figure. And it is very specifically specified that in his choking hazards, yes, he will have the teacup and saucer, and they will be 2 separate pieces. So for everyone wanting to play at home, we can do the teacup moment iconic from Star Trek 6. Mike hasn't seen it yet, but I can't wait for him to. So those are the 8 figures. So some of them are crazy deep cuts. Most of them are pretty deep cuts. But it's really, really interesting. Now, I know a lot of folks out there are going to be like, yes, this is great, but we do want our heroes, our main folks in this scale. I mean, if you're going to do this, I want my main folks in that style and scale. Totally get it. I don't know if and when we're going to get them, but I don't know. This is really a fascinating approach at doing this. This is the literal opposite of what Playmates did, and I'm really curious to see how it's going to go. Mm-hmm. Some questions that I don't know the answer to is how many they need to sell in order to be profitable, in order to continue the line. I'm assuming it's not as many as Playmates needed to sell. Mm-hmm. But I really don't know. So I would imagine coming off of the rubble of Playmates that they have a plan, that they're not just speculating and not sort of assuming they're going to sell 200,000 of each of these. But very curious. So the last thing I'm going to leave you with before we get to Mike's feelings and impressions about this whole thing is they'd never said it in any of the official parts, but in the Q&A, they slipped just a little bit, and I do believe I know at least what they think the price is going to be now. So in the Q&A, he said he sort of made an oblique reference. It wasn't an announcement, but an oblique reference where I think he let it slip. They're planning to charge about $29 for each of these figures. So, they're not $200, they're not $50, but they're also not $12. So, that's not an official announcement. I don't know if that's true. Like it's, who knows? But it seemed like that was at least the thought they have now in terms of pricing. So we'll see. So folks,
and that's sort of right in the wheelhouse of where some of those NECA toys are sold, and some of the more in the collector's corner items you'll see in the big box.
Yeah. So I don't think that's unreasonable, especially considering the quality of these figures at all. If that is true, again, a lot of caveats. It's if I'm speculating. So we'll see. But so folks out there, what do you think? Do you like this selection? How is this as a wave 1? Are you excited about these? Does that seem like a good deal to you? Do you want to get them? Are you missing the classic characters? or are you not? Yeah, everybody just, vent their feelings below. We'll be very happy to read it and discuss. Mike, so before everyone else weighs in, you weigh in, sir.
Like I said,
weigh in, sir.
This is cool for me because back in the day when we would look at figures, it was kind of very aesthetically based if I didn't know the IP. And here, I do know some of these, and I'm excited about Wei Yun for sure. I'm excited about Archer for sure. But that also said, I know that I'm going to be seeing these other episodes, and I'm in this universe now, and so I'm pumped about it. I'm excited, and I like the toys that have a little higher quality in the sculpts, so this is going to be right up my alley. I'm excited about it. More excited to get first looks out there. So, you know me, Keith. I'll run to every store and keep looking and checking, and I love to do the legwork. So I'm excited for for a little bit of a treasure hunt.
Yeah, absolutely. We don't know when. We don't know when the the pre-sale starts, but certainly this whole thing has moved along really fast. I mean, we went from not knowing this was even a thing to seeing 3 of the prototypes at Comic-Con. So it's not nothing. So anyway, thank you to Brandon Giles who sent this. Thank you to everybody else who has reached out to me and let me know about this. I know there are other pictures circulating. There's other stuff out there. So definitely we are not the last word or authority on any of these things. Hey, guess what? Nacelle, reach out. Hey, we've reached out to you. You can reach back. We would love to have you on and discuss more. And we definitely want to review all of these the minute they come out for you, the viewers. So anyway, if you would like to support this channel and keep more of our nonsense and have emergency episodes like this one, you can join our Patreon at patreon.com/K&M and join all of these fine folks. And there are more coming who are supporting the show, and they get bonus episodes of our nonsense. We do movie watch-alongs. We do AMAs. You can watch Mike watch every single episode of Deep Space Nine as we get to it. And kind of a bunch of other weird stuff, but we're right there. We're communicating. We have a little family that we are building, and we appreciate every one of you. If you haven't already, do us a favor, give us a like, give us a subscribe. We will be back here with more Look at My Star Trek Toys, but on Wednesday, we got some Deep Space Nine. Do not miss it. Till then, this has been Look at My Star Trek Toys!